Welcome back, everybody. So listen, if you are shopping for a home anywhere in Canada right now, good luck, because prices have actually never been higher. And this is not just a big city issue anymore. In fact, this has gone national. So here to break down what's happening in the housing market, CTV's chief financial commentator, Pattie Lovett-Reid. Great to have you with us, Pattie.
Thanks, Mel. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, we are so excited to talk to you today because, as Mel was saying, the average selling price in February in Canada was up 25% from the same time last year. And in some smaller communities, prices are up as much as 50%. So, Pattie, what's driving this rise in prices?
Well, I guess if I were to summarize it, it was when the Bank of Canada Governor, Tiff Macklem, really telegraphed that rates were going to be lower for longer through to 2023. And so as a result of being in this pandemic state, we have a really good idea of where we want to live, how we want to live, and even where we want to play. So you do include recreational property there. And there is a lot of money. Canadians have been sitting on buckets of cash, and not everyone has lost a job. So when you think about a pillar of strength in the Canadian economy, it's been real estate driven by lower prices, not lower prices, lower rates. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think it's a good thing that we have had this, at least in part, because without it, we could have seen the economy tip into a recession, and we did not. And I have a lot of faith in our banks. I'm just going to throw that out there. I do think that they are giving mortgages to the right people. They are checking on income levels. They are checking on employment status, and they have to have the down payments.
Yeah. Okay, so listen, yesterday, the federal government tabling their budget, and a lot of critics are saying, boy, there is just simply not enough in there to cool this very hot market. So let's first break down what was in that budget with regards to housing, if at all, and then what's missing?
Well, I think there was a collective sigh of relief that they were not going to take away the capital gains exemption on principal residence. No one really wanted to see that happen. The government did commit $3.8 billion to build and, really repair housing, thousands of it. And they also talked about a 1% levy for non-residents who are not living in their homes. And as a result, that could be kicked into gear January 1st. But to your point, it takes time. It takes a lot of time to build. We saw construction, new build, up 22% to over 300 units from June. Excuse me, why am I saying June? From February to March. And we know supply needs to be there because that's what this is all about. There simply is not enough supply, but it still is going to take some time.
Well, people are split on if they want prices to drop, obviously, because it depends on if you are in the market or not. And according to a recent Angus Reid poll, 40% of Canadians wish housing prices would go up, while 1 in 5 people wish numbers would drop by more than 30%. So if the market did take a big drop, how would that affect our economy?
Well, I think it would have negative ramifications on the economy in a huge way. I also am not in the camp that we're going to see the market crash because we have people who can afford the homes that they are going into. And I get it. Depends whether you're a buyer or a seller, which way you'd like the market to go. And don't forget, you may sell out at a great price, but you still have to find somewhere to live. And so you've got a bit of push-pull going on.
Okay, there's some home buyers out there who say, you know what? There should be an end to blind bidding, right? So this may be one way to try to cool the market. There was one Ottawa couple, and they shared their story with CTV News, and they said they went $400,000 over the asking price in their bid, and they still lost out on their dream home. So let's break down blind bidding, and could this, should we just get rid of it as a way to just stop these exorbitant home prices?
Well, from a personal perspective, I understand that and I get it. A blind bid is when a house is going to go up for sale and they set a date and a time where they start to accept bids. And in a market that's moving very quickly and higher, faster, People put in their offer. The thing is, they expect a home to go over asking, but they don't know by how much. So if I put an offer in on a $1.5 million house that maybe was listed at 1.4, I think, okay, I've gone over, I stand a good chance. The thing is, I don't know what the next bid next to me is. It could be 1.425. Or it could be 1.8. And I don't like blind bidding. And so I often say that when you buy real estate, and it's hard to do because it's such an emotional asset, you've got to strip the emotion out. But part of the way of stripping out the emotion is knowing all the facts and knowing what you're up against, and you don't with blind bidding. And by the way, a lot of talk recently too about bully bids. And this is you put in a bid above the asking price even before they start to take the other offers in hope that the buyer will do it. The problem is the buyer says, wow, that $1.5 million home, and you're prepared to offer me 1.6, I'm going to test the market. If I have to, I'll come back to you.
So CIBC's deputy chief economist recently gave a really ominous warning. He said, if you think Toronto is unaffordable now, you wait. Oh my God. We know it's expensive to live in Canada's big cities, but Pattie, do you think it'll ever be cheaper than it is today?
Well, personally, I really don't. And I did read that report. It was by Benjamin Tal. He's the deputy chief economist there. And he believes once we get the vaccine and herd immunity takes and the economy is back up and running, Toronto could be very similar to New York or Manhattan specifically, Berlin or London, where it's just really unaffordable and people have to commute into the city. And, you know, the other side of that, and I still go back to the workplace, we don't really know. We're in the midst of this third wave. We don't know what the new workplace is really going to be like. It's not likely going to be either work from home or work in the office. It could be a bit of both. And so I wonder, those who have decided to move outside of urban centers, are they going to be frustrated by the commute? Maybe not with this employer, but maybe with an employer down the road.
You know, a little bit of a different story as we talk about housing is the story about rent. So we know that across Canada, rent is down overall about 6%. But in Toronto year over year, rent is actually down 20%, which is significant in a big city like this. Do you think those prices are going to rebound once we slowly start to get back to normal?
Yeah, I think, Mel, you've just hit it on the head. Yes, we've seen a pullback. And yes, it's understandable. Nobody wants to be in a particular hot zone right now in the midst of a pandemic. And so rents have gone lower. But what I'm also starting to see is on the other side of it with real estate, there will be boomers that want to get out of their big multi-dwelling homes, like depending on how many families they may have. And we see that happening more and more where they're living. They may decide to downsize it. They may decide to rent for a period of time, lock in the gains, and that in turn will help fund their retirement. So it's not out of the question. So I do think rent prices in big urban centers will start to creep a little higher once we get control back. And the other thing I just want to throw out there in terms of affordability of these homes, many are talking about the fact that it's not in the too distant future. We're going to see a huge transfer of wealth from one generation to the next. That is also going to help with affordability.
And sticking with affordable housing, you know, the budget we said was yesterday. There are a lot of people who are simply priced out of being able to buy a home of any sort. Anything in the budget at all to help those Canadians?
I think at the end of the day, this is all going to come down to jobs. If you have a job and you're able to save some money, and we know many Canadians are, we've talked about the K-shaped recovery. Those who have been able to work from home, their expenses are way down. They've been able to tuck some money away, and we are seeing bank accounts in excess of $200 billion. That money just waiting to be deployed, whether it's a trip or it's to buy a home. But there are definitely some Canadians who have struggled. They have lost their job, and we need to see jobs created. And we may see that as we move closer to infrastructure and climate control, this sort of thing. But I think it all comes down to jobs.
Pattie Lovett-Reid, we appreciate your insights so much. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back.